Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guests today are Matthew Cornelius. He's Managing Director for Federal Industry at Workday, and Shannon Judd, the Global Director of Federal Partner Sales at Amazon Web Services. Good to have you both with us.
Thanks, Tom. Nice to be here.
Thank you, Tom.
And our topic today is the general modernization idea, especially as it applies to the human resources function and processes. Seems like a lot of agencies are chasing that area of modernization these days. And so we'll get into some of the technologies to accompany that. But let's begin with what you're seeing generally. What are they trying to accomplish as you look across government agencies? And what generally are you seeing the approaches they're taking? Matthew, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, Tom. Well, great question. I will say that one of the trends that Workday is seeing is more agencies actually want Workday, and more agencies are buying Workday and using Workday. I mean, our growth in the federal sector has grown exponentially. I just hit my 1-year anniversary at Workday yesterday and was able to look back on the accomplishments of the past year. That includes getting into our first cabinet level agency at the Department of Energy. That's going into the intelligence community and bringing true SaaS HR capabilities into the Defense Intelligence Agency. That's growing partnerships with folks like AWS, who we can leverage their infrastructure and move across lots of different agencies out there, whether they're civilian, defense, or intelligence. So the thirst for HR modernization has been there for a while, but now there's a lot of push to make that happen, right? I think just earlier this week, the Department of Agriculture just put out a request for information regarding modernizing the National Finance Center down in New Orleans. That's 700,000 people who get payroll or HR services through NFC or some of their other homegrown systems. So, whether it's what we are seeing at Workday or where the federal market is moving, the thirst has always been there, but now there's leadership attention, there's focus, there's resources, and there's a commitment from agencies to do this right. They want to get rid of those legacy systems. They want to clean up their data and improve it so they can make better decisions. And they know to do that, they have to go to modern, secure SaaS capabilities that run on sort of the world's greatest infrastructure. So the AWS Workday partnership is leading the way in that, and it's really exciting.
And Shannon?
Yeah, absolutely. And we were really excited to have Workday as a partner, that's built on AWS. And Workday really benefits, right, from inheriting AWS most comprehensive compliance controls that span about 143 compliance regimens globally. And AWS really provides that commercial cloud capability across all classification levels, right? So in the unclassed space, sensitive, secret, top secret, and this really empowers customers to complete those missions with a common set of tools, allowing them to really move fast to meet the mission needs. And that's what we're hearing a lot from the agencies, as you talked about, not just, from an HR policy perspective, but a lot of the back office capabilities to have scale and speed. So really at AWS, that really equates to having security is really job zero. And AWS really allows scale significantly more investment in security, right? Policing, countermeasures that really almost any large agency could afford themselves. And these investments really include enabling encryption of everything from FIPS 140-2, level 3 certification, and really preventing even our most privileged admins from accessing keys, right? So we also really have designed and delivered a first of the kind and still a unique in the industry innovation to maximize the security of customers' workloads with Nitro systems. And that's important, right? Because it really provides industry-leading privacy and isolation for all compute needs, including GPU-based computing for the best generative AI systems. And no one again, not even again, the most privileged admins within AWS can access a customer's workloads or data in a Nitro-based EC2 instances. And that's really important as we think about, again, many of the compliance regulations.
All right. And I wanted to get back to follow up on the idea of those legacy applications that Matthew mentioned, because over the decades, they have developed applications, a lot of the mainframe, for the specific HR functions and processes that exist for the federal workforce. And what's the bridge between those and getting that functionality done in also retiring those legacy systems. There's some logic there that you have to still have, fair to say.
Yeah, there's some logic and there's some challenges to the logic as well. I saw this from my time working at the Office of Management Budget and at the General Services Administration before I came to Workday. When it comes to legacy systems, one of the great innovations that Workday brings to bear when it comes to the federal government is we can take the idea of retiring legacy systems and turn that into practice, right? Agencies know they have dozens or sometimes hundreds of legacy systems that all have data captured in very different ways that perform bespoke roles or requests that an end user might have. Workday's best-in-class solutions allows Chicos, CIOs, CFOs, program managers, anybody's on the front lines can access the data that they need with the level of security that comes with that data at the right time to achieve their mission results, right? So one of the things that I've been so proud of Workday at since I've been here for the past year, when I first came in, we were really at a position of talking to customers and prospects and showing them why Workday, right? What do I mean by that? I mean, we can show them demos, we can pull up the website, we can show them how to, do a personnel action request, we can show them some functionality, how they manage expenses. Those are great things that agencies need to do. But if we don't show them why Workday, if we don't turn from why Workday to how Workday, how they know they want Workday, but how are they going to get rid of all those systems that they have that are homegrown, bespoke, one-offs that they have? And so part of my journey and part of my team's journey at Workday is being able to design that to know what those customers are dealing with from a budget situation, from an acquisition situation, from a data management situation, from a security situation, and be able to give them that roadmap so they can see what Workday does and the thirst that comes from customers and prospects when they want Workday and allow them to get there. And so it all starts with the data, right? The systems go away once the data moves to a place it can be leveraged and used more effectively. And that's what Workday does. And that's why we have committed so much to security so that agencies have, the trust and belief in Workday that we can manage their HR and their financials data effectively and keep it safe.
And Shannon, there for connect for us the idea of separating that data from the legacy systems that generated it, and suddenly it may be combined for new purposes, as well as fresh logic on the old purposes, which is getting HR ordinary functions done. And you mentioned compliance and security.
Mhm.
This seems like a good use case for cloud housing of that data that is now no longer associated with legacy code that the agencies are trying to retire.
Right. It is, you're right, as I talked about the compliance and security, but it's also about how do you take AI capabilities for process and workflow modernization, right? And how that can really then become the advantages of having them in the cloud. So the easiest way to do that is to really build scale generative AI applications, again, with security and privacy built in. And AWS makes that possible for all organizations, all sizes, and develops all skill levels to build and scale generative AI applications with, again, security, privacy, and responsible AI. That's the key, right? That is built in from day one. So as we think about it at AWS, customers can really access leading foundational models. They can customize with their own data and use the leading security, access control, and features they trust, right, from AWS. So it's really, think about it as the most performant, low-cost infrastructure for generative AI. So whether customers are training their own models, or they're customizing their models, or they're running ML applications, AWS is really the best place to train, run inference at scale with infrastructure purpose built in for ML. And that's really important, right? From the highest performing GPU-based Amazon, as an example, EC2 instances, to continue investments and really your purpose-built accelerators. So customers really can get the most performant and low-cost infrastructure for generative AI. And data, we hit upon that earlier. Data is really the differentiator. So with AWS, it's really easy for your organization's data as you using that as your strategic asset, really to customize generative AI applications and models to build more differentiated experiences, using features like the customization capability and AWS Code Whisperer. And really what that means is data is the difference between a general generative AI application and one that is truly knows your business and your customer. And with the most comprehensive set of data tools, you can really securely customize those foundational models on AWS with your data. And then you can use other built-in tools like agents for Amazon Bedrock to build applications that really know your specific business, that agency's specific business, their data, and obviously with their end customers.
And before we go to the break, I just had a quick question about generative AI, and that is it through Amazon your own generative model, or is it can someone choose whichever generative AI system that they wish and just run it in AWS?
Well, kind of hitting upon that earlier, generative AI power, it's really the powered applications that transforms the user experience. So at AWS, it's a building of powerful new applications that really help customers boost their productivity in the enterprise, streamline coding, as I was saying, simplifying business intelligence and improve kind of clinical efficiencies, for example, for healthcare organizations. So that's really kind of, again, that most differentiation, that AWS brings, because it allows those organizations' data to use it and to customize, again, applications and models to build upon AWS services, and then continuously looking at those their own assets and their own data for their specific customers.
All right. Well, thank you for that answer. We're going to take a short break now. My guests today are Matthew Cornelius. He's Managing Director for Federal Industry at Workday, and Shannon Judd, the Global Director of Federal Partner Sales at Amazon Web Services. I'm Federal Drive host Tom Temin here on Federal Insights, How to Modernize Your Workforce with Trustworthy AI, sponsored by Workday and AWS here on Federal News Network. Welcome back to Federal Insights, How to Modernize Your Workforce with Trustworthy AI, sponsored by Workday and AWS here on Federal News Network. My guests today are Shannon Judd, the Global Director of Federal Partner Sales at Amazon Web Services, and Matthew Cornelius, the Managing Director for Federal Industry at Workday. I'm Federal Drive host Tom Temin. And before the break, we were talking about generative AI, and it might be useful to just talk about what people are trying to accomplish with generative AI versus, let's say, traditional artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is fundamentally different from the generative. And we can talk about what the agencies are trying to do with this, and then some of the best practices for getting there. So Matthew, why don't you start with what it is agencies are trying to do from a customer experience standpoint, and also their internal efficiency of HR, which is an issue in the federal government.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I think about customer experience at agencies, one of the keys that comes out to me is it's all about the recruitment and the retention and the hiring of new employees, right? I just saw on Fed News Network, one of your colleagues had a great story out that said, over 1 million federal new hires have come in since 2019, right? And a lot of that has been because of reactions to the pandemic and some of the legislation that the current administration and last session of Congress got passed, whether it's around infrastructure or the Inflation Reduction Act or the CHIPS Act or the American Rescue Plan. But all of that has created a sort of talent surge, right? You've seen it at OMB through the President's Management Agenda. You've seen it through a lot of the policy leadership at the Office of Personnel Management. And one of the things that agencies need to do is, one, be able to understand the skills that are out there that they're looking for, and then they need to be able to hire the right people to fit a skills-based hiring surge that's happening, right? And so one of the things that generative AI makes available, one of the great things about sort of Workday is we use and we allow our customers to use AI to build out job descriptions that more effectively reach the kinds of candidates that they want and test those messages and see if that's attracting the right level of talent. We allow them to use AI to evaluate skills-based hiring, right? The government's obviously hiring lots of AI professionals, right? You see chief AI officers, you see lots of different offices for AI being stood up at various agencies. But it's not just getting AI talent. You need cyber talent that can leverage AI. You need contract professionals that can leverage AI. You need budget officials and financial management officials who know how to safely and securely leverage AI to get more accuracy, to stop improper payments, right? To to do better workforce planning as we're looking towards more retirements from SESs and GS-15s in the not too distant future. So there's a holistic way that agencies have to manage their workforce and their resources that generative AI makes available. And you see it a lot where agencies are getting more comfortable, right? I feel like a couple of years ago, people said AI or said generative AI, but then didn't do much about it. They were very hands off. Now we are finding as we are engaging with more customers and prospects, folks want to see what Workday brings to the table to do that, and they want to bring their own use cases and work with us collaboratively to say, this is a challenge we have, this is a problem we want to solve. How can we do this with you or with your partners so that we can achieve the outcomes that our secretary or our agency head wants to see happen?
Yeah, so Shannon, that gets to the idea of the right data for the right application using generative. You don't want to put all the data in the world if you're trying to create a job description for, say, a law enforcement officer or for
That's
a
right.
program manager, et cetera. So maybe discuss the ways that you can enable that careful data selection in conjunction with all the compliance requirements for privacy, intellectual property, and so forth, such that the generative AI gives you that ethical and also reliable and accurate output that an agency would seek.
That's right. And Matthew said it best, right? It's, how do we evolve from AI to generative AI? What is the power of generative AI? So think about it as building even and amplifying more powerful new applications, right? And that's going to help, agencies really kind of boost that productivity at the enterprise, the back office level, as you mentioned, right? Whether that's a job, proposal and how they respond to an application, and that's really streamlining it. And generative AI is taking that streamlined coding, it's simplifying business intelligence, it's improving that clinical efficiency, right? Or efficiencies in back office, management. And it's doing it with security and privacy built in. So it's not a bolt on, right? It's already built in. So it's easy for customization. It's easy to be seamless data integration. Agencies and enterprises can quickly take advantage of generative AI and be adaptive to those really specific needs of the organization, and is constantly learning, right? So think about that as we kind of lean into some of the contractual and intelligence property characteristics, right? And how that is used, how cloud and generative AI provided can deliver. Think about enterprise grade production applications, right? That then can incorporate really all AI required, much more than just prompting an FM, right? Or using a chat application. They really must be, in order to be more efficient, not only for HR systems, but other back office systems and efficiencies, they have to be adaptable to new use cases or technology improvements. It has to be able to scale highly performant and be resilient, which is critically important. It needs to be able to access and leverage proprietary data and mitigate risk by adhering to the most highest standards in privacy, security, and again, you hear me, my theme, responsible AI. So this is important because these needs, if I scale it down very simply to be able to scale, agility, repeatability, ability to integrate your data, privacy, and security. That's it. And that's really just the everyday needs of those agencies, customers that they've always had, right? But they really need to have the reason we've invented the cloud and designated it to address that. And now we are really adapting the cloud and continuing to innovate in order to support agencies and customers in meeting those, I'll call it enterprise grade needs in really the area of AI.
So what I'm hearing here then is in approaching something that touches every employee and is therefore broadly based in both a human sense and a data sense, like the HR function, and modernizing that and using AI to get these new benefits. In some sense, you're also then elevating the skills and efficiency of the IT function, the data
right.
management function, and the security function, kind of coming along with the HR piece.
Exactly. So you said it nicely. It's purpose-built infrastructure that helps scale with a comprehensive set of data services. And that really provides that choice of really any foundation or of foundational models. And it's really then can be scale across really multiple use cases instead of being isolated.
And Matthew, HR using the tools you've outlined is really software as a service, essentially, is where agencies are moving. No agency has all the money it needs to do everything it wants, nor does any corporation for that. And so maybe discuss some of the cost analysis that goes into software as a service, because that's a benefit and something also, atop of agencies' minds.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of the customers and prospects that we're engaging with today, they are still learning how to buy SaaS, right? And I think part of that is just the newness of SaaS in the federal market. I think part of it is related to the sort of acquisition regulations and policy that agencies have to live under and have to operate under. And as you said in your question, part of it is also budgetary, right? There's always a thirst to buy something new today, but what are we going to do to deprecate or get rid of the old systems or the bad data or the legacy applications that we no longer need? So both of those paths, when agencies are thinking about how they buy SaaS, and when we talk about sort of the total cost of ownership and the value of SaaS, part of the value is in how it's going to enable the workforce to be more productive, be more efficient, leverage data more effectively to drive mission outcomes. But the other piece is we have to show, and we need to have agencies understand that getting Workday now, it's going to give you the ability in the next year or 2 or 3 to get rid of 10 systems or 50 systems or 100 applications that you no longer need. And so we have to work collaboratively to figure out how to make that happen. And, it's no secret to you or to your listeners, right? Budgets are getting tighter. We're living under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. We're going into an election year. The government fiscal year is ending in September 30th, so there's going to be some uncertainty. So we, the folks at Workday and AWS, when we're engaging with customers and prospects, we need to give them that certainty. They need to know that we're investing in the product so it will be even better for them as things go along. We also need them to know that we are constantly bringing new functionality, new applications, new offerings onto Workday that will not cost them anything else, which is a lot different than it is when they're buying traditional software licenses and doing heavy customization to run an application. So it's a really symbiotic process. I've been very pleased with the kinds of thoughtful collaboration and communication we've had with agencies. And so I think you'll see as we start to move into the next budget cycle or two, agencies are planning for this. They want to invest in it, and they're doing a much better job of thinking about not just how that's coming on board, but how they're going to get rid of all this old stuff in the next couple of years.
Okay. And Shannon, we've got about 30 seconds. Your final thought.
I just want to build upon, the education side too, of moving to SaaS models, right? Because everything Matthew just said is spot on, but I want to add one other point. It also becomes a complete difference in how you manage those cost benefits. So the economic side of it is where we're really spending a lot of time investing and training and working with agencies and customers to have an understanding of how to measure the efficiencies of moving from traditional models to SaaS models, and how to repurpose the labor to then exemplify some of those cost savings that traditionally they weren't measuring.
All right, some great insights from today's guests. I want to thank Matthew Cornelius, the Managing Director for Federal Industry at Workday, and Shannon Judd, the Global Director of Federal Partner Sales at AWS. I'm Federal Drive host Tom Temin. You're listening to Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, please visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Workday.